Hey friends, welcome back to Homestead on a Prayer. Today we're going to be harvesting lots of medicinal herbs that I have growing in my garden. So I thought I would take you guys with me, show you what I'm harvesting today. We'll talk a little bit about how I plan to use them, and I'll show you some of the other plants, some of the other medicinal plants that I have growing too. So first of all, we're heading over to this elderberry guild that we planted together a few years ago. You can see that my elderberries are flowering, and I've got a mix of flowers and little buds here. Now, the type of elderberries that I have basically require cross-pollination from a different elderberry variety. So I have that plant there that's flowering and this one that's just starting. But I think because this specific plant is flowering, at least some of the flowers on this plant are flowering a little bit earlier than the other one, I'm not sure if these will be able to get pollinated. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest some of these as flowers. And then you can see there's some buds here that haven't opened yet. I'm going to leave those on the plant. Those will hopefully get pollinated by the other elderberry, and then we'll get a handful of flowers and a handful of berries. So I'm just going to go ahead and harvest the whole head of elderberry flowers, and then we'll just go ahead and bring it inside and dry it. And I'll harvest a couple of these other clusters that are really well along in flowering too. So elderflowers and elderberries have some similar properties, but because they come from the same plant, but they are a little bit different. I don't know what's going on in the chicken yard right now. They're very loud right now. But anyway, they're very excited that I'm over here, I guess, probably hoping I'm going to let them out. Anyway, when it comes to the elderflowers, I have a couple ways I like to use these. I'm going to go ahead and dry these. I'm just going to dry them right as a whole cluster. And then once they're completely dry, I can just kind of crumble the flowers off the stems. I'll discard the stems and just save the flower. So this is obviously, once they're dried, this isn't going to be a large amount of elderflower, but you know it will be something. And my favorite ways to use elderflowers, I have two main ways that I use them. So I like to dry them, and they make a really delicious tea, either on their own or combined with supporting herbs. Really good for when you have maybe a little bit of a cold or a flu, you're just feeling kind of under the weather. It's really good at just soothing. It has a really delicious flavor. It's good at helping your body to kind of loosen up mucus that might be making you feel just a little bit congested. And additionally, they do have a little bit of that same antiviral property that the berries are really famous for as well. So the other way that I really like to use dried elderflowers is there's this medicine that I make. I like to call it like a beefed up elderberry syrup. And every year I make it. I posted a video of it maybe 2 years ago making it. I can go ahead and link that video below in case you're interested. But you basically take these dried elderflowers, combine them with other herbs like elderberries and calendula and a lot of other really good herbs. I kind of make it, I guess it would sort of be considered a tincture because it's made in brandy but then sweetened with honey. So it kind of turns into almost like a syrup. And I find that's really my favorite medicine for when you've been exposed to something, you feel like you might be coming down with something, or you're a little under the weather. So I will go ahead and link that video below. And as a little bonus, these are just beautiful, and they smell so good too. So we'll be back later in the season for these once they've hopefully turned into elderberries. Now, while we're over here, we might as well mention this comfrey. I'm not going to be harvesting any of this today, but this is a really wonderful and useful plant, and I really enjoy having this growing in my garden. So comfrey is a great plant to have in your garden. It's great for your garden. It attracts pollinators. I know the bees love the comfrey. Whenever it's blooming, they just flock to it. It also is really good at enriching the soil in your garden. So it's a great plant to have, even if you're not going to use it medicinally. Additionally, I do really like having it on hand for its medicinal properties as well. It is a great plant at promoting healing of wounds and sprains. Last summer I broke my toe and I used comfrey to help that heal up a little bit faster. So I find this a really useful plant. Now, comfrey does have some cautions associated with it. So while we're on that note, I'm going to mention that every plant that I talk about here, I want you to do your own research before using it for yourself or your family. Because while most of the plants I'm going to be talking about today are considered relatively safe, at least for most people in most situations, As always, that doesn't mean that they're safe for everybody. They're not always safe in every situation. So definitely make sure you do your own research about anything that you're going to be using in or on your body or the bodies of your family. So that being said, definitely look into comfrey. It's a great useful plant to consider keeping. The next plant that I want to harvest is this lemon balm here. Now, this is a plant that I'm harvesting for the leaves, not the flowers. You're going to want to harvest it before it blooms. Now again, that's a little bit plant dependent. It's going to be different, as I said, from plant to plant. But for the most part, if you're harvesting for leaves, you want to harvest that plant while the plant's energy is focused in the leaves. Once it starts making flowers, it's going to turn a lot of its energy towards flowering. So we want the most energy possible in these beautiful leaves. So along the fence here, I have a few different lemon balm plants. I planted one here which got dug up, so I'm not sure if that one made it. I've got a new baby here, which I won't be harvesting from this because it's too little. But I've got this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these plants back by maybe about half, maybe even slightly more than that. We'll just find a joint right here and cut. And then I'm going to take these inside. I'm going to strip the leaves off the stems and lay them on a paper towel to dry. You definitely can use a dehydrator to dry your herbs if you want to. I prefer not to do that because the dehydrator uses heat to dry the herbs, and I feel like that heat, it cooks them ever so slightly, and I think that it allows some of those medicinal oils and the medicinal properties to evaporate. And I find that I think it's a little bit more potent. If you're dehydrating something, if you're drying something like this, that's not like really a juicy plant, you know, we've got these little flowers here, we've got these leaves here. That's something that's going to air dry completely fine. So I prefer to dry it that way. I think that it just makes for a little bit stronger medicine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these flowers here and the leaves that we're about to harvest. When I get inside, I'm just going to lay out paper towels on my shelf, and I'm just going to strip the leaves off the stem, let them dry just on the towels, on the paper towels there. Once they're completely dry, I'm just going to put them in a jar and store them in a cool, dark place. Now with a plant like lemon balm, which is really high in essential oils, you can tell if you rub the leaves and smell your fingers, you can really recognize that distinctive scent. Those oils are what is likely to evaporate if you use a dehydrator or if you dry them in really high heat. Because of that same principle, I like to harvest plants like this that are really high in those oils, you know, fairly early in the day. I like to wait until late enough in the day where the dew has evaporated off of them and we're not bringing in additional moisture. But I don't want to wait until the sun has really baked them, because I find that they tend to be highest in those oils, you know, fairly early in the morning, midday around, depending on when the sun hits them in your yard. So we are going to go ahead and harvest these before the sun hits them and they get a little bit wilted in the heat of the day. With plants like lemon balm, which is in the mint family, it's known for its very rapid growth. Harvesting them, you know, cutting them back pretty severely is not really going to stunt them. This is a fairly mature plant. It's several years old, so it can handle being harvested this way. By harvesting it early in the season, I am probably going to be able to get another harvest at least, probably even 2 harvests off of these plants without stunting their growth or damaging them. So this lemon balm has a really delicious flavor. With a plant that has a really good flavor like that, I really like to use it mostly in tea, somewhere where you can really enjoy the flavor. As opposed to something with a bitter, more unsavory flavor, I might be more inclined to put that in something like a tincture that you just take really quickly, that you don't savor. But something like lemon balm has a delicious flavor, and you can actually use lemon balm to kind of enhance the flavors of other herbs that may not taste quite as good. So for that reason, I dry the majority of my lemon balm and use it in tea. Now, lemon balm is great for your nervous system. It's just an all-around nervous system tonic. It's great for just promoting a positive mood. It's great for relaxation. It's great for de-stressing, just all of that mental relaxation, you know, that we all need in this busy world that we live in. Lemon balm is really great for that. It does have some antiviral properties as well. And with those two things combined, you know, it's also great for digestion and While it wouldn't necessarily be my go-to for fever on its own, it's a great support for other herbs that are really good at helping your body handle a fever. So because of that, I use it as a tea for relaxation, for kind of winding down at the end of the day, for any time when you're just feeling a little overwhelmed and stressed and you just want to relax a little bit. Makes a great tea for that. Additionally, I have a specific fever medicine that I like to make. It just really supports your body through a fever. Lemon balm is not the primary herb in that blend, but it does kind of help support the other herbs as they help your body just really get through that illness. So lemon balm is a great one to have in the garden. It has an amazing smell as well. Very easy to grow, very easy to harvest, easy to dry, just an all-around great herb to grow. So lemon balm is the only herb that we're going to harvest from this area today. But while we're here, I wanted to show you a couple other medicinal plants I have growing. This is more commonly known as a culinary plant, but it has great medicinal properties as well. This is garlic. I grow a lot of garlic, and I like to use garlic obviously for eating because it's delicious. But it also makes great herbal medicine too. You know, it's great has antiviral properties. It's great for helping your body just get through a lot of that sluggishness, especially in the winter. You know, garlic is so warming. Garlic is great at helping your body through infections and, you know, lots of just yucky seasonal things. So garlic is a great one to look into. This is not ready to harvest yet, but we will be harvesting this later in the summer. So as we walk down this path, you can see, first of all, my beautiful garden hose that I forgot to put away before this video. But I've got a couple other medicinal plants growing here. These are 2 little lavender plants. These are too young to harvest, but those will eventually be a great harvest. This lavender is a little bit older, still not ready to harvest. I do have one additional lavender plant over here around the corner. You can see this is just starting to get buds. So we could get a small harvest from this plant here. Lavender is a great all-around herbal plant to grow as well. You know, it's most famous for relaxation because for most people, it is very relaxing, very soothing. It has quite a strong flavor, so I like to use it fairly sparingly in tea. It's not an unpleasant flavor, but it can certainly overpower. So what I usually do with lavender for relaxation is I'll either use it topically. You can make a little sachet and sleep with it near your pillow. It's great for those things. Or you can just add a little bit of it to a tea that you've blended with other herbs just for soothing, relaxation, or, you know, sedative properties. So lavender is a great one to grow. Incidentally, I do have thyme right here too. Thyme is also known as primarily a culinary herb, but this does have some great medicinal benefits as well. Specifically thyme can be really good for certain types of coughs, for certain types of throat irritations. This is a good one to look into. Here I have a couple little skullcap plants. These are just babies that I started this year, so it'll be a while before these are ready to be harvested, but this is a great plant to grow. Skullcap is considered a nervine plant, which means that it is a great support for your nervous system. It's really good at, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's a sedative, but it is really good at helping you kind of turn off your mind so that you can focus on sleep or relaxation. So it's really good for that, or just for helping your body through headaches with, you know, causes due to, you know, stress and just overthinking, things like that. And I am really excited to be growing my own fresh skullcap because previously I have bought it dried, but I have heard that it is much more potent when you harvest it fresh and tincture it as opposed to using it dried either in a tincture or a tea. So I'm really excited to be harvesting my own in the next year or two. So stay tuned for that, something that I'm really looking forward to. Over here, I see one little calendula bloom that we're going to harvest. My calendula is really just getting started. This should yield pretty abundantly for me throughout the season. I have calendula flowers all over the garden, but this is the first one from this plant here. So calendula is most famous for skincare, and that reputation is really well deserved. You know, calendula is so great just for, you know, just general skincare, just for keeping your skin healthy. It's also really good at helping skin wounds to heal more quickly. Calendula is just really great with that. It's really great to dry this, infuse it in oil, and make it into a salve for your skin. So sometimes for a specific wound salve, I like to take calendula and mix it with comfrey, like I showed you earlier, infuse those in oils, and those can make a really great healing skin salve. Additionally, I think one of the probably lesser known qualities of calendula, but one that I really appreciate, is support for the lymphatic system. Calendula is, it's a dainty little flower, but it's actually pretty strong and powerful. Calendula is really great at, when you get sick and you get those swollen glands, and that's your body trying to flush the infection out of your body. Calendula is really great at just giving your body a little bit of a boost and helping it to be able to flush those toxins, that bacteria, the virus, just whatever it is that your body's trying to flush out. It's really great at helping your lymph system work more efficiently and just helping your body to be able to flush that out. So I did mention before when we harvested the elderflowers, one of my favorite ways to use them is to combine them with elderberries and calendula, and just to make a great support for your body when you're dealing with any kind of seasonal illness. And that is basically calendula's role in that concoction. The calendula basically helps to support your body as it flushes those toxins out. So we're going to go ahead and harvest this one little flower today. And I'll see if we have any more of these ready around the garden. I don't know if I have any ready yet, but I know we will be getting some ready soon. Just going to stick this in along with elderflowers. See, here's another calendula bud. Not quite. You can see I harvested one from this plant already. This one should be open in another day or two. So as we head over to the main garden, there's a few medicinal plants I want to harvest here as well. First of all, you can see this peppermint, which is growing quite abundantly. So we're going to take a nice big harvest off of this. Definitely a lot brighter on the side of the garden, so I'm going to try to make this harvesting part pretty quick. So peppermint, peppermint is famous. Everyone's familiar with peppermint. Has a delicious, soothing flavor. Makes a beautiful tea. Peppermint is another one of those herbs, similarly as I mentioned with lemon balm. Interestingly, they are related as well. So peppermint is another one of those herbs that can take a little bit of, some less tasty herbs and make them really delicious if you mix them together in a tea. So peppermint is one that I like to use in tea form. Additionally, peppermint, I mentioned before that lemon balm was a great supporting herb for other herbs that kind of support your body through a fever. And peppermint is one of the primary herbs in that blend that I like to use. So peppermint is great for supporting healthy digestion. Peppermint is great for, just soothing your body, helping your body to feel cool. Peppermint is really good at kind of activating other herbs in a blend too, because peppermint does have so much of that essential oil content. That's what gives it that amazing flavor and aroma. So peppermint is really great at kind of activating an herb blend and helping your body to just to really absorb it. I also do like to use peppermint for fever support as well. A lot of times I'll combine that with elderflowers, like we harvested earlier, and yarrow as well. Those three are kind of a classic fever support combination. And then sometimes I like to throw in some lemon balm that we just harvested and one more herb, catnip, which we'll get to in just a minute. So similarly to the lemon balm, I'm just going to cut this. I don't need to worry about being that precise because peppermint is very forgiving. I think we can harvest quite a bit more from this peppermint patch. Peppermint is, in some cases, almost a little too easy to grow. You can see I'm growing it outside my fence, but some of this peppermint has crawled under the walkway and made its way over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip up this peppermint by the roots. I'm just going to cut the roots with the dirt off, and we pulled up a violet too. We'll add this to our basket. So we're going to head around the corner of the fence here where you will see my quite impressive catnip patch. So catnip is probably most famous for its effect on cats, hence the name. But catnip actually, surprisingly, if you've ever seen the way catnip affects cats, you might be surprised to learn that it affects people quite a bit differently. Cats, when they get a hold of catnip, my two cats anyway, they go a little crazy. I think people say that it's a little bit of a hallucinogen for cats. So for people, it works quite a bit differently. Catnip is actually very soothing, relaxing, calming when it comes to humans. It's a great support for your digestive system. And as I mentioned, it kind of makes a good support for other herbs that are in turn supporting your body through fever. I probably wouldn't necessarily, catnip wouldn't necessarily be my first choice to help support a fever on its own, but combined with other herbs, it's really good for that. So I add it to a lot of blends for fevers when you're feeling kind of icky. I also add it to a lot of relaxing blends as well. I find the flavor it's fine. I wouldn't choose it for the flavor, but it's not objectionable either. So I'm going to go ahead and harvest this the same way. This additionally is also in the mint family, so pretty hard to over harvest it. So we're going to go ahead and harvest this, and might give my cats a little bit of a bonus from this patch too. So one thing that you can notice about catnip and other plants in the mint family too is this square stem here. You can see how the stem is angular rather than rounded. That is a signature of plants in the mint family. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. We'll go ahead and cut a few more of these and add them to our herb basket here. You can see, I don't know if it's easier to see from this angle, the square stem. You can see the angles along the edges of the stem there. So as you can see, our basket's getting pretty full. I think it's almost time to call it a day. Another herb that I really like to grow in the garden is chamomile. You can see this chamomile is just starting to get ready to harvest. I'll probably harvest this one flower here. Really, most of this needs a few more days. But chamomile is one of those plants. You can see I've got a small chamomile here. Chamomile is one of those plants that I will spread throughout the garden because it just makes a great companion for other plants in the garden, and it's beautiful and delicious. So chamomile is another one of those herbs that is really famous and well known, most importantly for relaxation purposes. Chamomile makes a great bedtime tea. Also, it has a delicious flavor. It's got an apple-like scent, so it's got an amazing aroma too. Chamomile, that's my primary use for it, just for relaxation blends for tea. It can also be really good for your skin as well, and also can support digestion. So it's a good all-around one to grow and harvest and use as much as possible. So I actually don't use red clover medicinally all that often, but since it decided to grow in my garden, I am going to go ahead and harvest a few of these flowers and dry them out. Red clover is one that you want to make sure to harvest after all the dew has dried on the plant, because one of the cautions associated with red clover flowers is that if you harvest them when the flowers are wet, they can slightly ferment as they dry, and there is a compound in red clover. When that fermentation process happens, it can get converted into a blood thinner. So that obviously would be a caution for anybody, but specifically for people who would be susceptible to blood thinning properties. So you definitely want to make sure to harvest that. You definitely want to make sure to harvest it when there isn't any moisture on the flowers. So as I said, red clover is one that I use a little bit sparingly. I don't use it very often, but it really is good, similarly to calendula, just for supporting lymphatic drainage. And that's honestly the main reason. That's the main way that I use it, and I only use it occasionally. But I do like to have it on hand, so we're going to go ahead and harvest a few of these flowers. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today on this beautiful day as we got to harvest lots of herbs from the garden today. I plan to dry all of the herbs that I harvested today. I shared with you how I plan to use some of them in tea. I'll probably use some of them in various, other concoctions that I'll make, maybe some salves. So all of these herbs are going to get dried. I'm not going to use the dehydrator for any of them. I'm just going to lay them out in a single layer on paper towels, let them dry. Once they're fully dry, then I will package them up and keep them in a dark and dry place. So I look forward to more tours of the medicinal garden this year as different things are ready to harvest. So I hope that you will come back and join me again and we can harvest some more wonderful medicine. I hope you're having a great day and I can't wait to see you soon. I'll see you next time.